So we can increase the size of allowed textures to 8192 if we need. So we just have like LODs and stuff like that, which really doesn't help me. So let me just take a look at my... So on a 980 Ti, I've got 6103 megabytes of VRAM. Which is quite a bit compared to what we need. So I guess having texture streaming get pissed about 300 is not really what we want. So what we're going to want to look for is what setting here is actually going to control the config for this thing. Alright. So we have various texture qualities, is what it's looking like. Limit pool size to VRAM is true. And we basically got, for their default settings, their maximum is 3000 for cinematic stuff, and it goes from 400 to 1000. So this is going to be on different quality settings. So this would be like ultra quality. So there's audio, textures, rendering. How do we set the quality for like our editor? Is editor preferences? Yeah, I've got like textures on epic levels and all that stuff. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and then cinematic. So yeah, their default is 400 for this stuff, and we're getting warnings at frickin', you know, texture level 3 with 1000 pool size. So you know, we're going. I mean, that's just a basic warning message. That's not an actual problem most likely, but it looks like the streaming is having a lot of trouble with those things. So why don't we just save this? We'll exit. We'll go ahead and check this file out and take a look at what we can, if we make it larger, if it doesn't look like crap. or if it's still going to look like crap because of the streaming system, and we'd have to do something about it. Well, then it's pretty clear that we're going to have to figure out a better way to do textures. So by increasing the texture streaming amount there, it looks like we don't have the warning anymore, that's for sure. It also looks like we're not having like super fuzzy, weird looking crap. So let's take a look at the actual texture for our photo booth character. So each one of these textures, so the resource size is 21,845. So this is like gigantic in terms of that sort of thing. So if we made it a default compression settings, this thing goes down to 5461. So we get a savings of four times or so. The other thing we could do is export differently sized emissive maps and stuff like that. We could also try like what if this was a grayscale? It goes to 21,845. Yeah, so it doesn't do anything good. Masks. A mask would take it down to that, which is also not very good. So if we put it at default and maximum texture size of 512, this goes down to 341, but then we get like some artifacting. So what if we do a vector displacement map at 512? Let's see, it doesn't look too awful like that. So, yeah, messing with textures always the most fun thing ever. So we want basically to make this texture size 512, and our default texture group. Yeah, so DXD5 512. And this thing goes, basically from extremely expensive to free. And we'll see if it actually looks anywhere near decent or if it looks like complete shit. Because maybe we can reduce the resolution pretty easily for the normal maps and for the emissive maps. Let's turn off some of our lights. And yeah, there is some artifacting there. Yeah, so we'd probably have to have a... It looks like there's almost no loss between 1024 and 2048. But yeah, if these guys were blurry around the edges and things like that, we could save a lot of space by reducing their size quite a bit. And probably the same for these guys. These guys are pretty damn big. Let's see if we change their mid levels. Yeah. So we could probably also export these guys at use a slightly... Yeah, I think we probably just need to reduce its size, because like 1024 is a quarter of the size, so yeah, we're definitely going to have some size issues there. Alright, well, I think we're just going to leave these alone for now, but base scalability.ini, we can change our streaming texture pool sizes and things like that. And that's kind of what you need to do with a lot of the game development stuff, is when you actually run into these walls of like, you know, hey, here's the limit. That's usually a very good thing, because then you kind of know, okay, you know, like, this is a box, we can work within this box. So that's why partially I was not really too concerned about throwing all these like maximum resolution textures and all this shit in here, because it doesn't really matter. Well, We will get cooler looking stuff eventually. Zero files need to be checked out. Oh man. Thanks for telling me that, Unreal. Man, he does not like to get started running. Slippery as all hell. Yeah, I was probably going to also talk to you about the movement. I was thinking Bitey could have, like, different gears. You know, like, because the momentum stuff, and we'll see like that, allowed for his braking animation. I guess that's true. But the, I don't know, we'll have to see exactly what we can do with movement. I was thinking Bitey might act like a car, you know, like he's in first gear and he runs from like a certain speed to a certain other speed, and he's got like, you know, really good acceleration and real snappy, and then like you hit like the dash key or whatever, and then like, you know, he kind of kicks into second gear or whatever. You know, he can't change his speed as much, but he can, you know, run a lot faster or whatever, and you know, you can keep kicking into higher gears or whatever until, you know, he's running at maximum speed, and then he's just pretty much run into a wall and get destroyed. Anyway, back to, I think, actual physics work. Let's see exactly what our collision is doing at the moment. So, I want to check the sweep movement downward. He'll be back in 10 hours. I will be watching the NBA Finals in 10 hours. So I'll be online, but I'm not going to be doing anything useful. Alright, so what exactly are we hitting here? We are sweeping down. And our hits, we're going to have one hit. The hit is going to be against static floor mesh component 0. It is a blocking hit. Okay, we don't want it to be a blocking hit though. So why don't we actually change these? Yeah, have a good one, man. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Where's this? All right. Let's throw these all into another folder. Alright, so we've named them all one-way floor, and I think what has to happen is inside of our settings for our collision, we've got to set our one-way terrain. I think instead of all these blocks, we need overlaps. So we need to just go down the line, set all these to overlap instead of block. And let's try to make sure to save that. Okay, so we fell all the way through everything, is what happened. So now we're no longer getting collisions. Well, where are we? Discover physics state. I assume that we have like a spawn action, right? For our player? No. Is it calling just place on ground directly? Yeah, okay, it is. Update snap to floor. So let's see what our hits are doing here. So we're sweeping down and we have 6 hits. And all of these are non-blocking. So we have floor 202, 205, 209, all this sorts of stuff. Let's see, the time is it's all sorted properly. So the question is, how exactly do we want to resolve these collisions? I think it's going to be like only return blocking hit. So what we're going to want to do is change all of our movement utils to have like a boolean for only blocking hits. So where are our movement utils? There we go. Let's check out this file. This is global utils. Well, we don't need that open, so let's keep it closed. So let's take a look at our sweeps and all this. So let's do bool, only blocking equals false. I guess actually by default it should be true, so maybe we should actually just break everything that doesn't use it and then set it up properly. It's probably the best way to do this right now. Alright, so only blocking. Do overlaps actually... Well, I guess we're not even using overlaps anymore because overlaps were inconsistent. So we need to change all these functions to actually take the proper stuff. So it's only blocking is after direction. Sweep movement actor, only blocking is after response. Sweep movement object, blocking is after response. Alright, so let's see, it's sweep movement object and sweep movement actor. This is overlap movement actor, so only blocking is the last one. So let's just keep working on it. Alright, so this should, we should now have a whole bunch of compile errors. So let's see, sweep movement actor should call sweep movement object, and it should be after direction. Well, the other question is, do we need, like, how do we control how we run into these things? I guess, like, if we're falling or something like that, we want to be able to land on this. But we also want like an angle or something like that, so like the normal has to be above the normal, like Z has to be correct, like normal Z min value or something. So we need like float normal Z value, and we're gonna have equals like negative 1.0f min normal Z. All right. And yeah, I guess we'll still need it for these overlaps. This will be after distance. Alright, this will be after. It's before distance, okay. Man, I do not feel like working today. I've got like this just not really wanting to work, but I'm also not paying attention to that feeling too much at the moment. Because it's not actually causing me any great distress, but I just don't feel like working today. Alright, so we got our normal min Z's. Alright. So, only blocking, and then yes, the min normal Z as well. Let's see, we have the sweep movement object, sweep moving actor. So it should be position, direction, response, only blocking, and then min normal Z value. So let's see, overlap movement actor. We've got only blocking and min normal Z, which calls overlap movement actor. Object, and responses. Response has to be there, so it's going to be only blocking and then normal Z value. Alright, so for the movement object, we're going to want like void set one-way Z value, float min Z, and float get one-way Z value. Then we need our min Z, one-way Z, one-way Z is going to be defaulted to 0. So that would mean that the Z value has to be vertical. Why don't we just do something reasonable with the one-way Z value and just like set it to like one-way Z has got to be like 0.5 or something, because I don't think we're ever going to have one-way platforms that are at horrible angles or something. Like one-way platforms are pretty much a trope of they're flat, so we can probably just say like 0.25 or something is plenty. Like we'll never have anything like that. Alright, we're also going to want to have bool ignore one-way. Alright, so here we go. We're going to have void set ignore one-way, bool ignore. We're going to have bool get ignore one-way. And we're going to have also a void ignore one-way and void respect one-way or disable one-way and enable. One-way platforms. And this is going to be a U function that we can actually call on our movement object. So let's initialize our variable for ignore one-way, and we're going to set that to false. And then we're going to want to add our... This class is getting really too damn big. It's at 2100 lines. That's how you know things are starting to get kind of nasty in here. You refer to classes like this as god classes because they're just so big and complicated. It's a sign that stuff is getting unmaintainable and bad. So we're gonna keep working here. It's a much bigger problem on like larger projects. If people just like can't even start looking at this code because there's just too much of it. Alright, so we're just writing our getters and setters for the one-way z-axis minimum for the normal. Ignore one way should be true and false. It's actually the opposite here. Alright, so what we're going to want to do is just go ahead and compile this, and everything's going to break, and then we'll be able to fill in the things that break with the correct information. Which all of our overlap tests are totally jacked up at the moment. Alright, we've got tons of compile errors to fix, which is exactly what we wanted. Only blocking, oh yeah, it's only blocking. So what is this sweep movement object? Is we should be calling direction only blocking, and then so it's after the direction and between the collision. It should be after the response and before the distance. So it should be ignore one way and min one way z. Alright, so overlap movement object. So we have only blocking and min normal z. It looks like we should reverse these, so it should be min normal z here first, like so. Alright, let's fix the movement utils first. Yeah, these are just wrong. And then we should be able to basically put in ignore one way and one way z. Sweep movement object, I believe, is like this. Gosh, we're just doing so much stuff here. Well, we could change the sweep movement object just to grab the ignore one way and one way z on it. Because we could just infer these two. Yeah, so sweep movement object and all the movement object stuff basically doesn't need the only blocking. Movement actor does. Movement actor does. Movement object. Well, what does the like overlap movement actor actually call? It just grabs the movement controller off of it. So movement actor doesn't need it either. We can just infer everything is what it looks like. Okay, so I can undo a whole lot of this crap. We can undo everything actually, is what it looks like. Alright, well, we can just, get rid of the last 20 minutes of work and not do any of that, pretty much. So basically what we want is bool ignore only blocking and float min normal z. And it's going to be object get ignore one way and get one way z value. Alright, well, let's just build this and get back to a clean slate. Alright, so we got back to our clean slate, and what we want to do is we want to start implementing this. So let's start. So basically what's going to happen is we got our hits, and what we're going to want to do is basically we're going to iterate over them. So for every hit in hits, so we're going to start at 0 and go forward. So if hit dot be blocking hit equals false and only blocking equals false, then we alright, so if the hit is a blocking, if it's not a blocking hit and only blocking, then we do this, and we also want to or let's see, we don't want to ever collide with things that we're already penetrating, so it'd be like hit dot start penetrating equals true, and we're going to OR this with hit dot what is it going to be? The impact normal dot z is less than min normal z. Then we'll continue. So basically, I'll just put a comment here. If we should check non-blocking, or yeah, all right. If it's a valid collision, so basically we're going to say the blocking hit is going to be the actual hit here. Kind of confused logic, but whatever. we'll take the first one, so we want to break. Alright, so we want to go over every hit right here. Well, what was that first one? I think we actually want to have a pointer. Ah. I think we actually just want to get rid of this hit here, and we can just do if hit distance is greater than hit dot distance and hit dot distance is less than distance. Yeah, if it's less than infinity, and alright, so that's good there. And I believe we can do the same thing here, where it's basically just like that. So we can start optimizing some of this code. Alright, so if we have something, is this, if there was a, let's see, what is the physics utils stuff actually returning here? Is it sweep component and ester? I need to double check the meaning of the return value. If the return value is only a blocking hit, then we need to stop respecting that if we need to make it our own. So we're going to return component sweep multi. So if we go to uworld, component sweep multi is going to return true if out hits contains any blocking hit entries. Alright, so we can no longer respect the return value. So it's basically just, we do this and like that. So we always have to iterate over the hits array. So it's bool blocking hit. So if blocking hit equals false, and only blocking. Return false. So I mean, we could shortcut iterating, but the question is, does it matter? Probably not. Why don't we just keep our code simpler for now? We can always come back and optimize whatever we need to. Alright, so we're going to have to go through for every hit. Just like that. Alright, well, I wonder if we can just ignore the penetrating stuff and just... I wonder if that'll work. We were having problems with getting stuck in the wall, and I wonder if the start penetrating stuff if we just ignore it completely. We might have some other issues. So it should be like if blocking hit was false. I think we might need if hit.be blocking hit equals false, and then if only blocking or start penetrating or hit impact z is less than, then continue. That makes a lot more sense to me just looking at it. So if we're only doing blocking, or if we're penetrating an object, or if the impact normal z is less than specific normal z. Alright.